Invoke executive privilege to prevent James Comey from testifying before the Senate Intelligence Panel next week.
That committee hearing was just noticed, and I think obviously it's got to be reviewed.
So that's not a no.
I was just saying literally, my understanding is the date for that hearing was just set. I have not spoken to counsel yet. I don't know how they're going to respond.
That was White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer with some pretty squirrely answers on executive privilege. Jeremy Bash, would it be unprecedented for the White House to invoke executive privilege to block Jim Comey from testifying before Congress next week?
Well, let's break this down. When he's there on Thursday, and by the way, we need a countdown clock for the Comey testimony.
I'm sure we'll have one.
Okay, get it up there right now.
Yeah.
So when
it'll be up before the end of the hour. Thanks a lot.
Before the committee, two big questions. First, what was the FBI investigating? He won't talk about that. I think he's worked that out with Mueller. Second question, what did the president say to you about the Flynn investigation? Did he put the arm on you to shut it down? That's where the White House could try to invoke executive privilege.
How, though? I mean, the president has said, I asked him to lay off of Comey to the Russians.
So number one is he might have waived the privilege.
I mean, lay off of Flynn.
Exactly. Number one, he might have waived the privilege. Second is Comey doesn't work for the president anymore. So how would the president try to enforce it? If Sean Spicer says it's under review, they would have to run into federal court and get an injunction, a temporary restraining order, to basically get a judge to issue an order and say, Jim Comey, you may not speak. I think muzzling Comey could backfire. First of all, it probably won't work, and politically, I think it'll be horrendous for the White House.
Ken Delanian, if they exert, I think Ken is with us, NBC's national security reporter. I just turned to you the way I call you in the middle of the day when something happens. I don't know what happened. You appear. That's magic of TV.
Happy to do it.
Ken, if they muzzle him and forbid him from testifying, could he do an interview and talk about what the president said to him about Mike Flynn?
You know, that's a really interesting question. I spoke yesterday with Ben Wittes, who is a friend of Jim Comey's and has been writing and speaking about Jim Comey's state of mind. And he suggested that Comey, may go against any assertion of executive privilege and just speak anyway. And I think Jeremy made a really important point. You know, typically executive privilege is asserted and applies to people who currently work for the president, and the president merely orders them not to testify. There's really no precedent for invoking it against people who no longer work for the president. I mean, you know, in the Hollywood version, right, Trump would send the federal marshals into the hearing to order Mr. Comey not to speak, but no legal expert I've talked to thinks that that's going to happen or anything like it is going to happen. And Jeremy made another really important point, which is the president may have waived that privilege. Don't forget, he tweeted about these conversations. He also spoke to them with our own Lester Holt. And so once you start talking about something, it's really hard to exert a privilege saying that that can't be discussed. Nicole.
So is the president eroding his own legal optionality by tweeting and talking so much?
Yeah, that's why when you saw the Covfefe tweet, you know, I actually think what was going on was he was tweeting and his lawyers grabbed the phone from him.
Ambien kicked in. It happens to me.
But my question for Elise and the Rev is, what would be the political implications if the president, to try to over-dramatize this, and he loves the drama, try to shut Comey down?
I think that the biggest risk of this Comey testimony not happening would be pressure on the committee not to have Comey, to cancel the hearing. I really think that if the White House chooses to go down this path and pick this fight, it's just going to... It's going to erupt in D.C. This has never been done. It's it's one thing if someone working for a president doesn't want to testify and they're fighting giving their testimony. He's a private citizen now. He can testify if he wants to. He can also, I think, probably give